Hi, everybody. Welcome to Lunch and Learn with Linda Brubaker. This is a job seeker support group. We're here to provide support, advice, connections for people who are in job search. We know the job search is hard. So this is our way of being able to give back and support each other. And so that's the idea, is to provide advice, support, tips, and tricks to make sure that you have whatever resources you need to help find that next forever job. So I'm a job search coach, and this is my way of giving back. What I do to support this program is that I provide job search coaching. And that means everything from helping you with your resume, your LinkedIn profile and LinkedIn engagement strategy, to job search strategies and interview prep, and even negotiating the final offer. So we've got all of those components involved. The idea is to help you do whatever you can to make sure that your job search is successful. Sue is one of my supporters, one of the people I go to a lot for support and advice and all the rest of that kind of good stuff. And she's also been around for a lot of these sessions. So I wanted to let her introduce herself as well.
Thanks, Linda. I love being here, even though you don't all love being here. But boy, this is such a wonderful support place, as many of you know, because many of you came before Linda came online here, knew her before. Whether you did or not, we are here. We're second to you. We're most invested in your success right now, which is why we do this. I run a global mentoring practice. It means I'm on the phone at 6 a.m., not usually 9 p.m. I'm in bed by then. But I do work around the world, and I'm more and more conscious of the fact that you all have connections, even when you think you're working locally, that we're in a global, basically a global working environment. You'll see me with pom-poms. I gave them a minute ago to, I forget who was just on screen, sorry. But I try to celebrate everything, even as Frank brought up to us a few weeks ago, rejection emails. At least you heard back from people. So thanks for letting me come. Linda, and the rest of you, I'm going to be out traveling for the next couple of weeks. So I'll see you after 4th of July.
Have a wonderful trip, Sue, and thanks for joining us. Okay, we're going to start with some wins. So does anybody have a win to share? And by the way, Sue was right. If you get a rejection email, especially, I know it hurts, but especially if you get a rejection after an interview, I count that as a win, because then you can go back with a thank you note, do something that so few people do, thank them for their time, tell them what you learned, why you're still interested, and ask for their feedback. What can I do to better prepare myself for a job like this with you or somewhere else in the future? You cement your relationship, you become a known commodity again, and you come top of mind when they're looking for somebody else to fill a role similar to yours. So it's a great thing to do. All right. Ken, would you like to share a win?
Yes. It was a long and windy road, but I'm expecting an offer letter this week. I need to follow up with the recruiter and see kind of what's going on with that. But this is for a job where I had previously not been selected. It was down to me and another candidate. I had, what I was going to do is a quick win a couple weeks ago, which was the nicest letdown conversation I've had from a recruiter in the, since I've been looking over the last year or so. But something changed, and they came back to me, not only to offer me the role, but they sweetened the pot a bit. They changed the pay grade to move it up one level to get closer to what I was asking for. So hopefully paperwork comes through, and next time I'm with you, I can be on the other side of that. Obviously, my suggestion is you keep looking until you start, or maybe even until you get your first paycheck. But it's a good feeling. It's been a long and windy road. So.
That's fantastic. So what kind of a job is it?
It is change management for a regional bank that's expanding globally. So it's IT adjacent. My background is enterprise technology, workplace technologies, and user computing infrastructure. But when I went from my second to last job to my last job, one of the stark differences I noticed was the way that change management was handled, like going from a larger, older financial services company to a smaller, younger health and wellness company. They didn't have the same regulatory constraints. And anyway, it was just one of the things that struck me of the many things that were different changing between those two jobs was change management. And I realized suddenly that I had some valuable skills, that I was more passionate about it than I realized. And so
Good.
I'd started looking for that kind of work as a slight pivot. There aren't a lot of change management jobs out there. And what I've noticed in this economy, they're being combined with other jobs that, at least in my mind, aren't a logical fit. So it's an even smaller kind of niche within a niche. But so far it seems I've convinced somebody that I'm the right guy to fill one of those slots. So hooray.
Congratulations. Keep us posted. That's great. And your
Uh-huh.
advice about coming back is staying in the job search until you've got that first paycheck and not canceling out. Sorry, I would never have said this years ago. I'm going to say it now. Okay. But
Yeah.
if you've got some things that are in the works, even after you've accepted and maybe even started that new job, don't necessarily take them away. Don't close them out yet. If you decide that this new job isn't really working out, if you've still got something in the works, you can still go back to them. And there are ways of talking to the people that you've accepted the job from to make that kind of a transition work. So as I said, I would never have said that a couple of years ago, but given this job market over the last 2 years, I have been absolutely giving that advice. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. So let's see. I'm just going to go across my screen. So I apologize. I don't remember who started first, but Pam, you're next.
Hi there. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I actually come with an almost win today. I have my very first phone screen.
That is a win.
I've been laid off since August. I've been applying an insane amount of jobs. I have never gotten a phone screen. So today I have one. And
That's
I'm
fantastic.
super nervous and super excited all at the same time.
So
And I have a question based on what you said earlier.
right ahead.
After a phone screen, do we send a thank you note?
Absolutely.
You got it. I can do-
Within 24 hours, if you possibly can. It's an email, so it should be relatively easy. It's a thank you for their time, a reinforcement of something you talked about in the conversation so that they know it's not just a standard AI written thank you note.
Right.
Okay. And always end every outreach that you make, whether it's your initial cover letter, whether it's a thank you note, whether it's a follow-up, always ends with the same sentence, 2 sentences. I am looking forward in the cover letter to talking with you. In everything else, I'm looking forward to next steps. The best way to reach me is. It's called a soft close. You're making the assumption
Got it.
they're going to follow up and contact you. It's
Cool.
saying we're really excited about it and moving forward. So let us know how it goes.
I will do that next week.
Wonderful. Thank
Thanks.
you. Is it Tim or Timothy?
Oh, it's TJ.
TJ. Okay.
First time joining in on this for you. And basically my win for this week is getting back into networking. I was so slow, but my position is going to be laid off in July. So I am searching for my next job.
Well, this is a great place to come for networking. Share your information in the chat. Everybody, remember, connect with each other. And we are sharing ideas. I'm starting to share jobs when I start seeing them again. I can't always remember, unfortunately, who's looking for what. But every time I share it, if you're following me, you're going to see those posts.
Yep, we're connected.
I know, that's great. Okay.
Yep, through Brenda.
Perfect. Thank you. That was going to be my next question is, if this is your first time here, I'd love to know how you found us. So thank you. Okay. Network with all of us and let us know how we can help you.
Okay.
All right. Sherry. Can you turn your camera on, Sherry? And unmute?
Hi,
Good.
everybody. I'm Sherry Hedenberg. My hair is a mess today.
We don't care. Mine came out of a box. What do you want?
Okay. So I'm looking for an executive assistant or senior admin role. I have been working online, and I contacted someone at one of my target companies. And, a lot of times I'm finding some people don't necessarily check LinkedIn messages. They don't reply, so on and so forth. And this lady replied back to me on LinkedIn. So I took it off LinkedIn and been communicating with her via email now. And she offered to me to meet with coffee, to meet for
Nice.
coffee. And not only that, she invited me at their corporate office, which is even better. So I'm really excited about that. I have applied probably, I think, 4 jobs there. So far, I haven't even got a telephone interview. But this lady is a senior executive assistant. So the fact that, she's got such a high role with what it is that I'm looking for is I'm pretty excited about it.
That's fantastic. So treat this as an informational interview, Sherry, more about what the company does, what that executive assistant role, senior executive assistant looks like there, what she did, what suggestions she has to prepare you for those kinds of roles.
Right.
Don't use it as a, gee, can you necessarily send my resume in someplace? Let her make that suggestion.
Agreed.
Okay. That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, let me see who else. All right. Tim, I'm gonna lower your hand. Anybody else have a win that they'd like to share? Okay. You can always do it later. We love sharing those wins. It makes us all feel good. And for those of you who are here for the first time, we do this every week. Okay. One of the things we're trying to do is to support one another in those ways. It's not just in the chat, and I love seeing those wins in the chat as well, but we also do it here in the group so that we can all support and celebrate you too and learn from what you're doing. Lori.
Well, mine is I guess a partial win. I've been looking forever, excuse me, networking, but I found this through volunteering at an event, and I met the CEO of a bank, and she said, go for it, apply for, this bank job. And I used to work in the financial, area, and I haven't heard back, but it's it's not online through Zoom or anything like that. So I'm really better face to face with people and communicating. So just trying new avenues, getting out there, out of your Zoom land has been kind of working for me. So
Oh, that's great. And that's a great idea. The idea of volunteering, guys, is one thing that we often forget about. Okay, so what kind of an event was it?
Well, it was a neighborhood event, Gold Coast Association, and it was all about safety we've got the Democrat National Convention coming in Chicago. So the neighbors are worried about, are the protesters kind of come marching on my lawn? What are they going to do? So my presidential council set up this event, and it was a real win-win, and the bank hosted it. And so she saw me, the CEO, standing there welcoming all these people, and there was like 95 people coming in the door, and I was like patient and trying to get them all registered at the front desk. And so I stayed there long after the event started, just to make sure everybody got in. And so then I started talking to her and drummed up a conversation.
That's absolutely fantastic. The whole idea of volunteering is that it gives you new skills, it lets you meet new people in different ways, and it does it in a way that is not terribly threatening, right? It's not intimidating when you're meeting people in those events, because you're not talking to them specifically about jobs, you're just having a conversation. and you absolutely never know where those are going to go. That's absolutely fantastic. Congratulations. By the way, that event, okay, especially if it's a big one like that, might give you some new skills or accomplishments you can add to the resume too. You never know.
Oh, yeah. There's, I'm always trying to like figure out what to, add to my resume and there's just, 2 pages in a resume. You can't add all this stuff, but it does help.
It absolutely does. So you can also do posts about it. We can talk about that too.
Thanks.
Great. Congratulations. Let us know how that goes.
Thank you.
Hello, Cynthia.
Hey there. It was going to be good news, and then I just got a note saying they just decided they want their candidates to be on the East Coast. I'm actually from New York and on the East Coast, but I moved to Colorado 10 years ago because of a 3-hour commute for over 25 years. So it's no longer, but I did want to announce the company because it's a great company and they're building teams, and that's why I'm bringing this up. The company is called Horizon3.ai. They're all about cybersecurity. It's a small company. They are growing. They have the funding. They are becoming so successful. They're adding a lot of people. So take a look at it. And I got in because through networking, someone got me into the CISO. That's the guy, the Chief Information Security Officer. He's tippity top of the company. He also wrote the code for all the products that they sell. So I made a good impression. I've gone through 3 HR people. Yeah, that can happen. And and then in the end, they were like, okay, now we have a new hiring manager, and now they've just decided to move it to the East Coast. So, but everybody should take a look at it because there could be jobs there for folks. And I'm in marketing, but there are other jobs there, engineering, project management, and so forth. So take a peek. I'll put it actually in the chat so you can see it.
Perfect. And then you can also maybe put it in the private group if you're a member of the private group.
Yes, I am. I can do that too.
So I would do that as well, because there are people I think who'd be interested who are not here today.
Oh, absolutely. Good
Okay.
point.
And that's a great thing. The other thing is keep in touch with them since you made that great impression. Even though they've said now that they want everybody on the East Coast, as they continue to grow, keep following them, keep commenting on their posts. Cynthia, keep yourself front of mind as somebody who keeps pushing the conversation forward. So it's more about them than about you.
Yeah.
You'll stay top of mind, and you never know. They may decide to come back and say, we're willing to look at somebody outside. I'm actually finding that a lot.
Well, I will say I made one error, and I want to bring this up to everybody because, hopefully you won't make the same error. I've always put B2B SaaS on my resume. They had so many keywords. I removed the word SaaS just so I could fit in some extra keywords to make it fit. And so as part of her getting back saying, look, we're really going to be looking for candidates on the East Coast. And by the way, we wanted somebody in B2B SaaS. And I'm like, oh gosh. So, stick to your guns regardless of the keywords they have, because now I'm writing her a note back, thanking her for immediate response, but also letting her know the entire thrust of my professional career has been B2B SaaS, but I was trying to fit in all the keywords.
That's a good thing. And maybe we'll do something on keywords later at another time.
Okay.
But learning the keywords that are important, when you think about it from the standpoint of doing a Boolean Google search. So running it through some of the AIs helps, but it sometimes gives you false information.
Mm.
You need to think about it. If I'm trying to find somebody to match my job, what are the 5 to 10 terms that I am most likely to use to narrow down my field of candidates?
It's interesting in their job description on LinkedIn, SaaS isn't even there, and it's not in the JD itself. And it's also not mentioned on a lot of their materials. So I'm thinking, wow, okay.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Just do it. Just do it.
Absolutely. Okay. Congratulations. Keep in touch with them and with us. And welcome here. Okay. Anybody else have a win to share? All right. Al, are you still on track to get started?
Yeah, I start on Monday, and I just got a couple emails about virtual orientation. So yeah, all on track. So, but like was it mentioned about waiting for the first paycheck? A quick question for you about when to change your information on LinkedIn after you get it.
That's a great point. So you don't have to do it right away. Okay. In fact, many people wait until they've been on the new job for 2 to 3 months before they change it. The only difference would be if the job that you're doing at the new organization, like at the school, is going to be having you doing a lot of posting in their name or what they're doing, then you may want to change it.
Okay, thank you.
So you and I can message about that off.
Sounds good, thanks.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about what our idea for today, which is the whole idea of job search tracking. I did a poll last week or beginning of this week, I think, about tracking job search. And not surprisingly, 73% of the people who responded to the poll said that they do track and follow up. But there were some comments that were saying, even offline to me, that the follow-up is the harder part. The tracking is relatively easy. I can put together some sort of something to say, yes, I applied for this job on such and such a date. But then it's that follow-up piece. So I'm curious, what do you all do in terms of tracking your job search, and how do you follow up? Or do you track? All right.
Linda?
Yes.
Yeah, you definitely need to track.
I'm sorry, who's this?
Oh, it's Whithill. Sorry.
So
I didn't raise my hand. I apologize.
Yeah, so the way we do this, because there's so many people, Whit, go ahead and talk now, but normally what we do is we raise hands.
Yeah, raise your hand. Sorry. I'll make it quick. You definitely want to track it because I think a lot of recruiters are looking to see who follows up, who's really serious, who's interested in the job.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. Pam.
So I was tracking
Okay.
religiously, and I would track the company name, the position, the date I applied, the JD. There might have been something else in there. But what I discovered was that since I wasn't getting anything back from any of those, all that tracking did, it just served to make me really depressed. And so I stopped tracking. And I'm a lot less sad. I'm still unemployed, but I'm a lot less sad. If I had gotten any phone screens, I would track those. Though I absolutely can see that. But to follow up on, I submitted an application, the rejection letters come in way too fast.
And I understand that. So thank you for sharing that. And no, we don't want to do this as a way of saying we want you to be uncomfortable. Okay, by any means. And I understand that. If you're getting rejection after rejection after rejection, and unfortunately in this job market that happens, okay, it can do that. But the other thing about the tracking doing it, even for that, is that it takes it off your radar. You can move it down so that it's no longer on your list. Okay, it's still a way of following up so that if you did do something there and it's a company you're interested in, there are ways that you can follow up with them in different ways, even with a rejection. Michelle.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Nice to see everybody. So I definitely track, and I just use a simple spreadsheet. There's no rocket science to it, and have different columns in the situation where, I'm entering into a number round of interviews. I don't really do any follow-up there other than, continue staying intact with whoever I'm working with at the company. But there have been situations, and I think there may be a factor, and this is probably good for everyone to hear. I always apply directly to the website, but I do know others apply to like job boards or, directly through LinkedIn. And I've, in talking with individuals who do that, feel that they don't get communications back. So, that's going to be more and more common, and it's important for you to know that it's not the best route to go. Also, the situations where you are applying through the website, it's important. Sometimes you have to log into the website.
Mhm.
You know, the companies may not choose to do a communication back, but you know, they will put a status. So those are the two things that I have noticed. And if when they do put a status and I got zero communication, I just note, you know, what the response was and mark it on my sheet.
Mhm. And two really great points. The first one is really important, guys. Apply directly on the company website every time. We are finding sometimes, Michelle, that you're right, that if you apply directly, if you apply through some of these other websites, even LinkedIn, it may get lost in the cyberspace somewhere. Even if it gets through, it may get through to the company's website, to their tracking system, almost a week later, a week to 10 days later. Don't take the risk. Go ahead and apply directly on the company website. In fact, recruiters are telling us routinely that that's where they want to see it, because when you apply on the website, they get a ding. Okay, X number of people have applied, go take a look. They don't necessarily get that any other way.
Yeah, it took me a long time to actually realize that. You know, I probably was in my job search a good 4 or 5 months before, and maybe I got that information even on here. Don't do it. I stopped doing it and got better traction.
Mhm. So absolutely, thank you. That's a great point. The other thing is, by logging in, you can see the status. It's also your reminder that if you've got that account on their system, you are active in their system, even if you have been turned down, which means that recruiters will go back into their system and search for candidates who meet new and upcoming jobs. So always, if you have the account, check it, but use that as a way of checking to see what other options there might be and keeping yourself active. Great points. And I agree with you. Spreadsheets are the way that I go as well. I'm old school.
Me too.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any ideas or any tools that they use? We know that there are a lot of them out there. Okay, so let's talk about why it's important to track, even though you're getting a rejection. You want to be able to see what's working and what's not. If it's a company that you're really interested in, even if you got turned down the first time, I want you to track that company, see what other openings there might be, and what kind of engagement you can have. So I'm going to add another column to your spreadsheet. Talk about the columns in a minute. But what kind of engagement you can have to keep yourself on their radar. So we all know that there are going to be jobs that you're going to apply to out there that look good, but it doesn't come through, it doesn't come through. But there are companies and jobs you really want to get into. You want to, like Sherry said, this is a company she really had an interest in, and so she was really excited about that. The idea of being able to track it is not just, did you apply and did you get a response? But what can you do to keep yourself on their radar in one way or another, if that's something that's important? So I want to talk about two different ways of tracking. And the very first thing is, you need to be aware, whether you're keeping a track of what you're applying to on a spreadsheet or not, you need to have a copy of everything you send to an employer. And I'm a believer in internet files or computer files as opposed to hard copy. I think they get lost. But when I say everything, I would like you to have a file for every job that's going to include a copy of the job posting, not the link. You're actually copying the job posting into a document, whether it's a Google Doc, a PDF, Word copy, I don't care, but you want to have that because that posting will go away. And I've had people contacted for a job they applied to 10 months before. And they no longer have that option, that posting, that availability. You want to have everything that's there. So in that folder, you want to have a copy of the posting itself. You want to have a copy of the resume that you sent to them, the cover letter that you sent to them, and a listing of whatever follow-up that you've done. And I know that that may sound as though it is duplicate work, but you can copy and paste a line from your spreadsheet. or say, refer back to spreadsheet to do it, just to track it. When you are saving your resume or cover letter for that job, don't just say resume, don't just say cover letter, don't just say company name. It should be your name. I'm going to recommend last name, first name, company name, job title. Or last name, first name, job title, company name. That's the way that you should save that file, that folder, that resume, that cover letter. What that does is that it's an easy way for the company to keep track of it. It's also your way of reminding them that this is a specific application for this job, not just any job. And I know it sounds subtle, but from a recruiter standpoint, from this side of the desk, that really makes a difference. And if I've got a lot of documents out there and I want to go back and find them, last name, first name really will help. So make sure you're doing that. Okay. Also make sure that you're doing it and you're changing it every time. There's nothing worse than sending something to a company and it's got somebody else, other company's name on it. So do spell, it's not just spell check, it's verbal check, visual check as well. Okay, so you want to have all of that in your file folder. Then in terms of your spreadsheet, what kinds of things, if we're using a spreadsheet as opposed to a tool, and I honestly don't think you need to have any kind of paid tool to track your job search. Okay, I'm all about doing things on the cheap if we can, and paying for those things where you really need the help. So what kinds of things would you include on that kind of a spreadsheet? Okay. Scott has some great points in terms of what he puts in his folder, by the way. I'm realize that I'm not looking at, you asked Pam, I'm trying to read some of these comments as well. So when I say recruiters, am I talking internal recruiters or external recruiters? Yes. Some questions I know you're asking is an either or, but they're really not, they're both. So recruiters in general like to have things in an easy way. Now, granted, if I'm an external recruiter, I'm going to be hiring for lots of different companies, lots of different jobs. By your adding that, it helps me determine which job I'm looking at. Even internally, I'm probably hiring for, in some cases, the most that I ever hired for at a time, I had 63 open positions on my plate at one time as an internal recruiter. Easier you make it for me to try and sort all that out, the better. External recruiters, I'm not only hiring for lots of different positions, I've got lots of different companies I'm looking at. So again, make it easy for me when I'm doing it. Okay. All right. Other questions about that? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to look. So yes, if you've said you've got a page that you're asking for it, make sure you include that too. Any notes that you have, include it in the file so that when you do get that call or when you're following up with them, you've got it all at your fingertips. Last thing you want to do is have to go searching for it and try and find it or miss that crucial piece of information. Okay. So in terms of your spreadsheet, okay, I'm looking to see what's there. Okay. Yes. So I'm going to go back to gallery view for a minute so I can see hands. Okay. So if you use a spreadsheet, use your raised hand emoji. Okay. It's down at the bottom of your screen. Oh, I'm sure that more of you are tracking than that. Okay. All right. So we're getting some. So in that spreadsheet, what kinds of things are you including? David, are you willing to unmute? Would you include on your spreadsheet?
Sure. Hey, everybody. So I actually wrote about it on LinkedIn last week. It was a 1.5 year of job search. I've been tracking it for a 1.5 years. I keep track of calls I make, text messages I send, applications I send out, the number of one-on-one meetings I have, interviews I have. Then I tally up all that stuff and I track it month over month. I also keep a separate tab for the companies I apply to, the date, and then if I get a response back and what ends up being a result. So I can then look through the list to see if I've applied to a company before. So if somebody reaches out to me like a recruiter and they say they got an opportunity at this company, I can tell them within the last 6 or 12 months whether I've sent an application indirectly to the company. The reason I did it years ago is because I was completely lost. I was responding to stuff, I was applying, wasn't keeping track of it, and I found I was very inefficient. So I started doing this probably 10, 12 years ago, 20 years ago. And every time I now go through job search, I pull out the spreadsheet, clean it up, update it, and start over. And then I keep a goal of having to try to do a little bit better each month, because you have to have goals in terms of what you're trying to achieve.
So when you say a little bit better each month, I'm not sure what that means.
Well, performance, just like in any performance, if you can tell if you're having a crappy day, there are things you can do to make your day better. And part of that might be productive activity. So just like some things are, I follow the Covey mantra of, there are certain things that are quadrant 1 or, urgent, deadline driven. There are things that are preparation. So I try to mix things up so that I feel like I'm having a productive day.
Good.
And that's part of the job search and having activity. So if I've had a crummy week or a crummy month, I can look back at how active I was or what my activities were. And I get an indication of okay, I can understand why it was kind of a dud of a month.
Good. Yeah, keeping that kind of track of that activity is really a good thing. No,
Glad you asked.
I did. I am glad. Okay. Look, that's what we're all about, is we're sharing ideas. What works for us, what works for you may not work for everybody else, but the idea of giving them that idea, those things that you're doing and you're tracking. And I think Sue put a link to your post in the chat that talks about it. Thank you, Sue. It's a great way of sharing ideas of what works for you and giving us an idea of what might work for us as well. So thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Scott, you want to join us? You have to unmute.
Yeah. Hi, Linda. A lot of things people are saying how they track. I'm very old school like you are. It's all Excel. And a lot of people have mentioned a lot of the columns they use already in the chat. I'm very similar. I've been at this 10 months, but I'm not the first time or the first rodeo going through this. So I find that's the best thing for me. And like I also mentioned in the chat, and you mentioned, is I capture a copy of the job description, my custom resume, my any answers I do in the forms or Workday. I copy all the answers I give them on the application.
Good.
The salary and the salary range that they're asking for, plus the salary range that I tell them I want in the job description or in the application, because they may not align. They may ask me about that. I found it's been very helpful, especially recently, where I've gotten rejections from jobs and they're no longer listed. And all of a sudden, 3 months later, this happened last week, I get a call saying, hey, I'd like to interview for this role. And I'm going, okay, get more information. I said, and their job's no longer posted, but it's been taken down. So it's a good thing I had this information. Otherwise, I would have been, I don't see behind the 8 ball, but at a disadvantage. So
absolutely. And we honestly don't know. So there are companies that are taking the information down. They may have gone through some interviewing. They may have rejected people to begin with, and then suddenly decide that it didn't work out, or they send everybody rejection letters because the job had been pulled for a short period of time. And rather than reposting it, they're going back to the people that they've already got on staff. Keep those files. You've got a lot of storage space you can use, especially if you're using some sort of cloud storage. There's a lot of space out there. Don't get rid of them, but keep tracking them. The other thing, thank you, by the way, for sharing, Scott. One of the other things that I like about spreadsheets is that you can keep sorting, okay, so that you know which ones are still active at the top of your sheet, but you still then can resort it by alphabet if you want to, so that if somebody calls, you can easily find it. So it's a great thing. Michelle.
Just want to make sure I was off mute. One thing, and I agree with everybody in their comments, and same thing that I've done. I've seen the columns that are noted in the chat. But what I do is I have this master spreadsheet, and then one tab is for all the detail that I collect for applying to jobs. My second tab is networking. Who am I networking with? When did I network with them? And the third one, I have like, who were my targeting companies? And I think I started with that initially and it got shoved over. And I actually keep adding target companies, as I think through, what do I want to be doing next? And identify the industries that I'm looking to pursue. So, I've been at this, more rigorously in January, but was laid off last August. So, it's a long time coming.
I understand. And it does take a while. And you're going to go through spurts where you're going to be really active and spurts when you're not. And when the job activity is going to be high and when it's not. But yeah, keeping track of it. I love the fact that you've got those, in effect, 3 separate spreadsheets, those 3 tabs, because tracking different things is important. Not all networking is related to a specific job. In fact, much of it should not be. It really should be generalized networking, building those connections, that informational networking going on, not asking specifically for jobs. So I love that idea that networking is part of your spreadsheet. Okay, Lori. Unmute. There you go.
Yeah. I used at the beginning the whole Excel spreadsheet, but I'm more, I have this ongoing, document where, I've got a date for every interview or everything I had, because I'm not doing the black hole at all anymore. So everything I do has a touch point to a person or a referral. So I just keep everything in date order in one file. And what's helped me is some of these companies, as you said, have come back and changed their job descriptions. And so by keeping those job descriptions, they said, oh, well, we put the job on pause, Lori, we liked you. And then 6 months later, they were reconnecting with me, and it's been a long haul, but I've been able to compare then the 2 job descriptions and said, okay, what changed? Are you like now gerrymandering me? And this is what they do in Chicago when they want to kick somebody out. Are you trying to like plug 3 jobs into one? And then the pay has not raised, or has a pay raised? And then I talked to my other network person and they're like, Lori, don't work for them. That company is like full of beans. So, I kind of just track everything day by day, date by date, because I'm not going into the black hole like maybe a lot of other people are. So that's just, I'm a different type of job tracker, but you have to document and keep track of everything, no matter what system you use.
And that's great. And I know a lot of people talk about the black hole, about applying directly. I'm still a person who says apply directly. Yes, get a contact if you can, but having somebody walk your resume down the hall and say, this is a person that you should talk to and you need to hire them if they don't really know you is very rare. Networking absolutely helps to get your foot in the door, without a doubt, but don't stop applying directly. If you take a look at some of the people who are doing this, I know that the stats say 70 to 80% of the jobs are found through networking. Break that down. What that means is you've done the informational interviews. You know what the company is all about. You've gotten that information if this is a good company to apply to or it isn't, as Lori just mentioned. You have somebody who can tell you a little bit more perhaps about the hiring manager or how this worked either now or in the past. All of those networking connections absolutely help. And if you're lucky enough to have somebody who says, use my name as a referral, or I know the hiring manager, that will get you in. Or as Lori did, she met the CEO at a volunteer event. That's not just the gravy, that's the icing on the top of the cake. That's the fantastic area. But don't not apply for a job because you don't have those connections. In my entire job history, I have never gotten a job through networking. All of my jobs have been applying directly. And I think if we go through and we do a LinkedIn poll, even though people say they got it direct, you know, with networking, if we break it down as what does that networking mean? I think that you're going to find that fewer than 40% of people are actually getting a job because they know somebody at the company. In fact, I may do a poll on that at some point. Why not, right? Okay, Tina, next.
Morning, everyone. So for me, in addition to what everybody track, I also track the job type, if it is a contract or full-time. Then I track the job ID. There are some positions that they have a rec. It's important. I track that just in case a conversation comes up. Can you send me the job ID? I have it on my fingertips. Then the other thing that I track is let me see, what do I have? I track the salary expectation, and I do it in two ways. Especially what the position is offering and what I'm asking, just in case that conversation pops up. And that is more important when I'm talking with staffing agency, whereby they have my profile, my information in their database, and different recruiters are reaching out to me. I want to make sure that I'm consistent on the information that I'm communicating to them based on my salary expectation. And the final thing that I track is if I have a referral. I can't track if I have a referral, I add that. I track that because, you know, the referral could be useful for that position or for another position. And the final thing that I do, it is kind of a little funny, is the job description. I usually copy them and add them as a comment to the column for the position. So when I click on that comment, I see everything about that job. I don't have to go to Word document. I don't have to go anywhere. Just click the comment section. So those are just a few other things that I track that have not been mentioned yet.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, David, you've got your hand up.
Damn it.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, Linda, you know me from Brenda Meller's
I do.
Friday. Well, a few things, but first, as of how I keep track of stuff, I just have an Excel spreadsheet. I have a column for the date I applied, where I found the job, was it LinkedIn or some other job board, what the job title, the position, or the company of the position, and whether it's remote or where it is, and then what happened, which usually means I put rejected in red. I was very interesting to hear that there isn't like a magical networking gets you a job. You've always applied. And that's all I've been doing. Well, mostly is applying on the job boards. And I've not been getting, I haven't had an interview since I don't know when. It's starting to get frustrating because the people with a lot more experience are getting interviews, maybe not getting hired, but getting interviews, but I'm not getting interviews. And so I'm wondering what it is that I'm missing. Or I guess one of my main questions was going to be how many applications a week should one be putting out? Because I've been putting out 5 to 10 a week.
And I'm going to tell you that I'm not a numbers person in terms of applications.
So it's not a major thing.
It is a numbers game, but it's not. The more you apply for, obviously, the more likely you are to get a call back. However, I'm much more concerned with the quality of what you're applying and the materials that you're putting out there than the numbers. One of my concerns with pet peeve, people who say you've got to apply to 10 jobs a week, you may not find 10 jobs a week that you're interested in.
And sometimes I don't. That's the problem.
Okay.
Or they want 30 years of experience, or it's in a, it's not up my alley.
So remember, if you match 65 to 70% of what they're looking for, it's a good job to apply for. Don't screen yourself out. So
Okay.
65 to 70% is my magic number. If you are still finding that you're applying and applying and applying and not getting those responses back, then it may be time to look at some of the materials that you're sending them.
Okay.
Okay.
What
So
if they call for like 3+ years experience? I have 0
I
to
don't
1
care.
years experience. It doesn't matter. Okay.
they're looking for unicorns. Don't screen yourself out.
Okay.
Okay. And having written job descriptions and posted jobs out there, I know that they're looking for unicorns.
So it's okay to apply for stuff that's up here
Yeah.
instead of down here.
It doesn't mean you're going to get it or you're going to get that
Right.
response,
Definitely not.
but don't screen yourself out because you honestly don't really know what it is that they are looking for. The job
Right.
description is that goal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But nobody's going to get everything that's going to match everything on that job description.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Timothy.
I've noticed some positions that say remote, but must be located in X city. Should you still apply for those?
Okay, so here's the reason for that. And number one, if it says remote but must be located in a certain city, that's kind of iffy, okay? If it says remote but must be located in a certain state, okay, that makes some sense. And here's the reason for that. If I am a company and I am paying somebody in a state different from my own, I am still subject to certain business-related taxes. So if I don't have any location, or if you're the only employee in that particular location, I may choose not to hire you simply because you're now adding to my tax burden.
Okay, so don't apply to those then.
So if it says a specific city, I would be careful. I wouldn't do it unless you're in that city. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Michelle.
I wanted to ask you, because most of this conversation has been around, what is everybody using? But the one question I have is, so you've applied for a job and you're not hearing back. What are the guardrails or the boundaries to, when you should take that next step? What is the, best practice for when you should follow up?
That's a great question. And I think that's enough that it actually deserves a whole segment. No, I really mean it, Michelle, because we've only got a couple of minutes left and I really wanted to get to some networking. But let me give you a quick answer, is that if you have not yet gotten a rejection, okay, then following up within a week to 10 days is not a bad thing. If there is somebody that you can follow up with.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the advantages of looking for jobs on LinkedIn is that you may get a name. Don't apply on LinkedIn, but keep that name of the recruiter so that you can then send them a message and say, by the way, it's a great position. I really enjoyed it. I've taken a look at your profile and all the company information. I applied for this job on such and such a date. Would you please take a look at my materials, like what I sent you? It's another way of reminding them. And that's something actually that we're finding recruiters like. That reminder, because it says, number one, you're taking that added step. It also says, I know enough about the company to take a look, and I can tell you something about what the company does because I just pulled it from your website or from your profile. It's not just from the job posting. Recruiters like that added little tickle and doing that. Now, the other thing is, if you don't have a name, or you don't really know what's going on, and unfortunately that happens more often than not, there are some tricks to try and find some names and do that, which is why I say this is going to take another session. But following up, if you haven't heard, after a week to 10 days is not a bad thing. If you've had an initial interview and you haven't gotten a response yet and you want to know where things stand, then yes, again, following up after your thank you notice within 24 hours, but you can follow up again within another week. Okay, to say, I'm really still excited. My schedule is getting a little full. Want to see where it goes, or is there any additional information I can provide, because I'm excited to move to the next step.
Yeah, I would be really interested in hearing more about your tips and tricks to, how you get underneath finding that right person to connect with to better understand the hiring process or what have you. You know, it's been, I think, a topic in a lot of lives lately.
Yes.
And especially if this market is, you know, really focused on, you know, hiring people because they know somebody or, you know them, you know, personally and the resume is on their desk, or needs to get to a desk. So what is that desk? Um, I'm struggling. I'm trying to do something more creatively so that I can, you know, get out there and, you know, ensure that, you know, my resume is getting to the right person.
Yeah, it's a tough market, and you're right. Having that extra person who can say, you know, here's a resume you should take a look at is always a good thing. But I will tell you that recruiters will look until they've discovered, you know, they've got 20 people that they're interviewing, they're not going to look anymore for a while. Okay. But especially if you're getting out there within the first week, recruiters are going to take a look at your resume. They're going to scan it anyway, whether somebody's sending you in or not. The advantage of having somebody that you can refer to is that it's that added push for the recruiter to at least do a phone screen. Okay. Doesn't mean that they're going to take a look. It may not go anything beyond that. And in some companies, it is more of a courtesy. However, still always a good thing to be able to have if you can. Don't let not having that name stop you from applying. But there are ways of trying to get around that and to build up that credibility with the company, especially if you have a target list. Oh, there are lots of things that you can do to make yourself known. So do me a favor, Michelle. Send me either an email or a link. Actually, send me a LinkedIn message to remind me to set that up. Okay. To do it for another session. Thank you. Okay. Cynthia, you're going to be our last one. And then because I really want to be able to.
Yeah, I'll make it really quick. I just wanted to say something about Michelle's comments, but also I wanted to let you know that I've been speaking with some marketing folks and they're like, hey, the minute I see there's 100 applicants, 200 applicants, I'm not applying. Well, guess what? During this whole conversation, I applied to something that had 278 applicants. Anyway, they contacted me saying they'd like to interview me while we're being on this phone call. So just want to say that. But the other thing, Michelle, is, as I said, at Horizon 3.ai, I went through 3 HR people. And so what they did was they really appreciated the fact, because they're a startup, they're like, yeah, we have some bumps in the road and this thing isn't really smooth and we're so sorry you're going through 3 people. So it's perseverance to get to that person. And I'll lower my hand.
Oh, it's okay. And I'm about to do some network. Go ahead.
I know another coach had used detective work, but I mean, all of this is detective work. And so, but a lot of that falls short on crickets. Right. So, you know, that bug has been my best friend lately. And so, you know, it's how do I try to, you know, circumvent some of these things. And I think it's just a great discussion topic for a lot
of absolutely is. So we'll make sure that we do it. So before, I know that people are starting to leave now, and I really wanted to remind you all that what we're talking about next week is going to be when you start to get to the stage of getting those interviews and they're moving forward and you're getting the interviews and the offers. Next week, we're actually talking with a negotiations expert who's going to talk to us about how and why to negotiate. No guarantees that if you negotiate, anything's going to happen, but it's always nice to be able to hear some of the advice and to get your questions answered. So please join us next week for Lunch and Learn when we do that. Okay. The last thing was, Cynthia, thank you for the 200 and some people applying for a job. When you're looking at LinkedIn and it says number of people who are applying or applications, it's really not an application. It's a number of people who've clicked into the job. LinkedIn does that as their back end. It's their way of selling LinkedIn jobs postings to employers. See the number of engagements we're getting? Okay, so that's what that number means. Most of the people who are going to apply, especially those who apply directly through LinkedIn or Indeed, are sending a standard resume. They're not customizing it. They may not even be a fit. When I'm talking 65 to 70%, they may be a 20% match. Gee, this
Right,
sounds
so-
good. I'm interested.
Right, so this is supported by your comment about always go to the website, because they had an easy apply link, and I'm like, nope, not doing that. Going to their
Good.
website, and that's how I
Absolutely.
got them. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, that's great. All right, so thank you all. Now, I'm going to turn off the recording. I will put all of this information into the private group. I'm going to put the chat in there. I'm going to put in the AI summary, and I will put the link to the video when I get that posted. As a reminder, you can always go to YouTube to watch the video replays. And I'm going to put that here as well, okay? Because that's where I post them. And if you subscribe to the channel, you'll know when I post the videos, because I don't always do it the same day. I try, but I don't always get to it. Just being honest. All right. We're going to do some networking now.